You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome into another edition of Inside Automotive. Proactive Dealer Solutions emerged as the BDC experts and pioneered the BDC concept, which has evolved into not just BDC, but better customer experiences for the entire dealership. Today, PDS continues to train and implement processes for better customer experience and modern retailing, while also developing SaaS services that further this cause. Proactive Dealer Solutions has developed and launched Brooke.ai, and Lawson, Owen, who is the CEO of Proactive Dealer Solutions, is here in our studio to bring us more understanding to the product and why this might be the next best thing for your service drive. Welcome into the show.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, great to have you. And so let's kind of jump right in. I know we're going to get asked this question. What is Brooke.ai?
Sure. So Brooke.ai, Brooke is a digital voice assistant, right? So what we've done is for years we were processing calls. We have a product called Caller CX, where we track, record, and analyze and evaluate inbound sales and service calls. And we've been doing this for years and years and years. So what we've done is we've taken that data and we've created a digital voice assistant specific to service.
Right.
So we leverage natural language processing and artificial intelligence through a digital voice assistant to handle inbound service calls for the dealership.
Okay.
And what we've found is 75% of calls that come into the dealership, the vast majority of those can be handled without a human, right? They're non-technical questions.
Right.
Where are you at? What are your hours of operation? Sure. I'd like to schedule an appointment.
Right.
So we leverage digital voice assistant for service. We're integrated with the scheduling tool. We're integrated with the DMS.
Okay.
So we pull that data out immediately, and we shorten the interaction with the customer.
That is fantastic. My only question is, how come you weren't around when I had a dealership?
Right, yeah.
Because every dealer lays awake at night thinking, how many calls am I missing right now?
Sure.
Because the service department closed at 6 or whatever their time is, and it's the weekend. As you know, we live in this 24-hour bubble now because you pick up your cell phone or you go to your laptop and that's when you want to make your appointment, when it's good for the customer.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
And your technology allows them to do just that, engage with that dealership when they want to be there.
At scale.
Scale, right.
Brooke can handle any volume of calls at any point in time.
Wow.
So Brooke will never be overwhelmed.
Right.
Brooke will always be at work. She doesn't need to be trained. She doesn't need to be managed.
Right.
And you talk about the call volume going into the store. The average dealership, the average service drive loses 30% of their calls. They're lost, dropped, or abandoned. 30% aren't being answered.
Wow.
So I'm the consumer. I'm reaching out to your dealership. I'm reaching out to your service department, and 3 out of 10 calls aren't connecting. So when you talk about customer experience, let's just talk about answers.
Crazy.
And we see it again and again and again in every organization. And I would challenge the dealers that are listening to dial into their call tracking tool and to figure out what their call failure rate is for service.
Okay.
They're going to be less than impressed.
Right.
It's really a scary number. Like you were saying, 30% is a big number.
Yeah. As a dealer, you might think, I'm missing 5, maybe a high of 10, something like that. But we have the technology in the industry to monitor that, and to your challenge to the dealers, which was spot on. Do just that, dealers. Take them up on that. The numbers are there that you're missing dollars in your service department. You already know that. Right. The only question is, how much are you missing? Well, these guys have actually put that number together, and it's 30%. I'm sure there's some dealers it's probably north of 30%.
Yeah,
right?
I mean the average across the board is 20 to 22%.
Okay, wow.
Right, for most stores.
Okay.
And now because of COVID and post-pandemic, it's even worse. Right. Dealers are having a hard time not only finding people but staffing those departments.
Right.
And certainly the influx of calls that are coming into the store.
Sure.
And so we're really in a lose-lose kind of a situation, right? We can't find people. The volume of calls are still there. The demand from the market is still there, and yet we can't service it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. If it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, in the morning, and a call comes in, and the staff in the service department can take it, or even maybe your BDC can take it. But when you're talking about 7:30 to 9 o'clock, and then when you're talking again from 3:30 in the afternoon, I live this, 3:30 in the afternoon until 6 o'clock at night when it's
Right.
pickup time. Oh my God, you're just inundated, so you're either giving bad service to the person on the phone, or you're giving bad service to the customers standing in front of you, right?
Sure.
Because you're doing the wait a minute, hold on, let me, right?
The service advisor is in a no-win situation.
Right.
To your point.
That's right.
If the phone rings and they
right.
answer it, the customer's like, well, why are you ignoring me?
Yeah.
If they don't answer the phone, the consumer's
right.
like, well, that's why I can't get a hold of anybody around here because nobody answers the phone. So they're in a no-win situation.
That's right.
But we know the peak times. We know that from 7:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, from 3:30 to 5:30 are going to be the peak times.
That's right.
So you can't, but you don't know the volume of calls. So how do you staff for that?
You can't.
You can't.
You wouldn't even
Right, and
attempt
that's the
to.
challenge.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And if you did, it would cost you thousands of dollars.
Well, and we can't find anybody these days,
Well,
right? We can't
that's
find
true.
them, and they don't want to work the way that we would expect them to work. I mean,
That's true.
we're a pretty demanding industry if you think about it. What we expect of our people, right?
That's right.
The demands we put on them, and it's difficult right now. Not only to find people to get the right quality of people, not only that, the consumer is expecting more from us.
Right.
Than maybe we've been able to deliver with that $10 an hour employee.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting to me and how slow many times, and I'm probably going to get some emails on this, so don't send them to me. Some of my friends in the industry that say, why do you say that? But in this case, it's true. We are very slow in the auto industry to adapt technology to our operations, right?
Sure.
We learned that through when COVID hit, and we went, oh my God, we're not really ready for digital retailing and we can't do it. And of course, everybody ran out and got the tool and, did more tools for their website and try to retrofit the training of their sales department and such. Oh, we got to do this, we got to do this. But this is something that they can do right now. You've built the technology for it. Why do you suppose that we are slow in the industry to slower than the airlines, slower than the rental car companies, slower than the credit card companies, slower than your utilities? Today, you don't even expect a live person to answer the phone. In fact, I would rather they don't, because that's typically where the problems exist.
Right. What we're seeing is the vast majority of people don't mind dealing with the technology. Actually, less than 10% abandon the call or ask for a representative.
Okay.
It's actually 7%.
Wow.
So 93% of consumers are okay with moving through that process through the digital voice assistant.
Sure.
And again, the Brooke uses what's called natural language processing. So you speak to Brooke like you would speak to an agent,
Okay.
right? A live person.
Right.
She understands the intent. She understands questions. She anticipates things.
Sure.
And again, what we're able to do because of the integration with not only the scheduling tool but the DMS, we shorten the engagement call for the customer.
Yeah.
Average consumer is on hold for over 3 minutes. Average inbound service call lasts almost 6 minutes. So I'm on the phone for almost 10 minutes waiting or talking to somebody from your organization.
Right.
Whereas Brooke is going to handle the call immediately,
Yep.
right? No one's on hold,
Yep.
and the calls last longer than 3.5 minutes.
That's right. That's right.
So
And
they're
how
in and
many-
out in 3.5 minutes.
And how many times have we called into a service department and
Please hold.
and please hold,
Yeah.
right? And then when you get the person comes back on, you say, I want to book my appointment. I want to book. Okay, great. What's your name? What's the information? Okay, please hold.
Right.
Okay, now I got to run back to dispatch or whoever to figure out when that technician can work on the car or what it looks like when you're on hold the whole time.
Right.
And then they come back and they'll say, oh, what kind of car was that again?
It's frustrating.
And you're like, I don't believe this. This is the third time I've given one
Exactly.
service department, 3 times I gave them the make and model and miles of my car. I'm like, what are you doing with this information?
And then dealers are surprised that less than 30% utilize their services, right? Retention as relates to people that buy a car utilize the service department. They're
That's
shocked
right.
by that.
That's right.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that the customer experience is critical or paramount to not only today's business, but tomorrow's future business.
That's right.
And so if we focus on that customer experience, and that's really what Brooke does.
Yeah.
We answer every single call. We make sure that there's consistency and continuity in how those calls are being handled.
Mm-hmm.
We're addressing the concerns that the consumer has, and we're getting them off the phone in less than 3 minutes.
Right.
Which is what they want.
There's no question about it. We got a life to live. We don't,
Exactly.
What's the number one complaint that people have about buying cars is it takes too damn long to buy a car. I'm in the showroom for four or 5 hours. And then when it comes to service, it's how long is it going to take me to get on the phone and set this appointment?
Correct.
They want to get in and they want to get out. Talk to me a little bit about, from the OEM perspective, how do you position Brooke to them? I would think this would be a no-brainer for them.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of OEMs that will outsource a lot of their service business, right? They'll have these third parties that'll answer the calls because they've acknowledged that the dealers don't do a good job. And again,
Right.
not to be disrespectful, but we just don't do a good job in the car business
know.
on the phones.
I know.
And anybody that's a realist will acknowledge that.
That's right.
And so the OEMs understand that the customer experience and service, again, goes back to retention.
That's right.
The more we can get them to utilize the service drive, and that's why we give away complimentary service.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We give away those first oil changes and
right.
whatnot.
That's
So
right.
we know that if we get them to come back into the drive, they're going to buy another car from us.
That's right.
So how do I enhance or elevate the customer experience? How do I make it easier for the consumer to do business with my dealership? How do I create a frictionless experience
Right.
that is streamlined,
Right.
and gets the consumer what they want in less than 3 minutes? That's really what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. You're one of those few out there that are in the technology for auto dealers that actually lived it. I mean, you've been in and around the auto industry
100%.
for 30 plus years. Why did you choose to invest in this type of technology?
You know, we'd been, again, tracking, recording, and evaluating calls for almost 15 years, right? So we had the data. And, the data's always been available to us.
Mm-hmm.
What most organizations have a hard time doing is to understand the data and to how do I monetize the data.
Right.
And so I was going through that process too. We have all this phone data, we have all these calls, we have all these scoring.
Right.
What can we do to help the dealer do a better job? And again, at our core, we're a process management, a lead management consulting company. So when we see our stores have a 30% call failure rate, we don't even have to get better. Just answer the phone and you'll sell or service
crazy?
more cars, right? Yeah. And so how do we create a technology that'll help the dealer? And again, service is, I don't want to say it's easier than sales, right? But it's a much more structured process environment. It's much more finite in the sense that I'm calling because I have a check engine light. I'm calling because I want an oil change. I'm calling because I want a tire rotation, whatever it is.
Much more intentional.
Right, so we could develop this tool leveraging natural language processing to understand the intent of the consumer, help the consumer, elevate that customer experience, at the same time helping the dealer.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It helps the dealer in a very big way.
Huge.
And as it still amazes me as to the fact that this kind of technology exists out there. Obviously, through CBT, we want to bring you these kinds of technologies that help you run your dealerships better, more efficiently. Oftentimes, dealers don't know the problem that exists out there.
Right.
Their service department manager will tell them, and I love you guys, but you'll go in and you'll tell them everything's fine. We're getting all the service calls we can. We're booking appointments. Everything's good, right? When at the end of the day, as you said earlier, just go on and listen to the number of calls you're missing and focus on that. You could probably pick up another $1 million a year in net profit to your store in just the potential lost business.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I say to dealers, I mean, don't take my word for it.
Right.
Most stores have some sort of digital recording product or tool out there, which will track not only call volume, but also call failure.
Right.
Figure out what your call failure rate is.
Right.
And then try to monetize that to say, I'm losing 3 out of 10 calls, and if half of those scheduled an appointment for service, what's my RO count? And you start to do the math, the number gets really big really quick.
There's no question.
Yeah.
For the dealers that are listening to this, what is your recommendation for them to kind of dip their toe in the water and say, let's see if Lawson is living up to what the claims that he's making? What do you suggest they do?
Yeah, and again, this goes back to the fact that we're slow in the auto industry to adopt different technologies, right? And so I understand that. There's a huge trust issue. There's having faith or confidence that the product will deliver, right, to the extent that we say. So what we recommend to dealers is start with after hours and overflow.
Yeah.
So after hours, people aren't answering the phone anyways.
Right.
And then overflow. Overflow are that 30% that aren't being answered.
That's right.
Right? Or somebody who's been on hold for a period of time. We can set it up to where if your call failure rate goes over 10%, that Brooke steps in.
Right.
So you're always staying below a 10% call failure rate. We can also adapt it to where if somebody's on hold more than 30 seconds or 60 seconds, you can set the parameters that Brooke will step in. So you have control over what you want her to do.
Yeah, it's very customizable.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. So after hours and overflow, let's start there.
Right.
Because you're not losing anything. If
That's
anything,
right.
you're going to gain.
That's right.
And we have a dealer, a group, Highline Luxury stores that have, through after hours and overflow, almost 400 ROs in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what we've been able to save or salvage.
And that's in the after hours and overflow.
Correct.
So now you take that technology and put it into the hours that you're open of operation, and you're killing it.
Well, what it allows a dealer to do is, because we're never going to go away from our staff, whether it be BDC or service advisors, but what it allows us to do is to reallocate those resources on things that are going to be more critical to me as a dealer as it relates to retention and future business, right? So we're able to focus on those seasonal campaigns, those maintenance retention, recalls,
upselling.
Exactly. Yeah. All those things that that kind of fall through the cracks.
That's right.
Simply because we're very much in a reactionary mode.
That's right.
Brooke takes away those reactionary moments so that your people can focus on the things that are going to sustain the relationship and sustain the business moving forward.
Every service writer will tell you, yeah, I'd love to do a full walk around with every customer. Who's got the time?
Right.
You know, the phone's ringing. I've got to pay attention
3 deep.
to that. And I'm 3 deep and I'm processing eyeballs. So if you can take this one area of responsibility off of the back of that service advisor, or even off of the back of the service team in there. You know, there might be a cashier that takes some of those calls and he or she's doing what they can. You know what I mean? It's like, that's crazy, you know? And society now is so accustomed to this. They're almost relying on it. They're saying, hey, Mr. Dealer, call Delta, call American Express.
The market is almost demanding that we get better.
That's
if
right.
you think about
That's
it, right?
right.
The expectations of the consumer are greater now than they've ever been, right? And you know, whether it be COVID or whatever it might be, we talked about digital retail and those different SaaS products. We all buy and search and service organizations the same way. The first thing we do is we search on our phone, and then we pick up the phone and we call them.
That's right.
And that's what the consumer's doing.
I know. No
Are we
question about it.
prepared to handle that volume of business?
That's
and most stores, regrettably, aren't.
And think about, we didn't put a pencil to this yet, and maybe the next conversation, put a pencil to how much the cost of the acquisition of that lead to call your service center, okay? Because every dealer's spending money in that area. Okay?
Or the adverse effect on your brand.
That's exactly right.
Right? So, you know, there's revenue, and then there's the value of your brand.
That's right.
Right? So that customer experience, if I'm having a difficult time interacting with your people or your organization, right, there's consequences from a brand perspective.
Oh, there's no question
Both
about
whether it be Ford or Toyota, but also the dealer himself, right?
That's right.
Or
That's
herself.
right. No question about it.
Yeah.
Well, Lawson Owen, CEO of Proactive Dealer Solutions, I want to thank you for coming in here to CBT Studios. This is the kind of technology and the kind of solutions that we want to constantly be bringing to our dealer audience, and this is certainly, I think, needs to be at the top of every dealer's list right now. At least check it out. Like he said, give them your overflow and give them your after hours. I'm putting my dealer hat back on. That's a no-brainer.
Right.
I mean, you're only going to win in that scenario, and then, you know, base it on that. You know, sit down with Lawson and his team and say, how'd we do? Well, something tells me we're going to do even better if we have the whole deal.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, we would encourage dealers to call us. We'll give you a phone number that you can call, and you can try Brooke out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you can call as though you're trying to organize an appointment yourself, like a consumer would. So you have different, and we have stores that'll do it literally 50 or 100 times before they get a comfort level, just to say, okay, this is the customer experience. Right. So we would encourage dealers to do that.
Absolutely. And the best thing, what I would do is I'd probably bring my parts and service director in, and I'd bring maybe my sales manager, my GM, myself, you know, get in the conference room, take you up on that offer, make some of the phone calls, and then collectively, everybody decide, yay or nay, which is the way to go here. You know?
Absolutely.
So, Lawson, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions in routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. Hiring Brooke means absolutely no call goes unanswered. boosting your customer satisfaction and reducing your overhead costs. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend, with human-level understanding and a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations, making her the easiest onboard you'll ever have. She can handle any volume of calls and follows your policies every step of the way, 24/7. That means even when the lights are off, Brooke is always on. You're probably asking, what about my specialized BDC? Even the best BDC can fall short. Unexpected volume, human error, and oversight can easily overload the system. By steering common requests and basic conversations to a smart digital assistant, you can keep your service advisors and technicians happy in your shop at optimum capacity. Hey, Brooke, why don't you tell them a bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. I collect all necessary customer and vehicle information, as well as determining the reason for servicing the vehicle. I welcome new customers and recognize returning customers while updating their profile. I work with customers to find the best day and time for their appointment while always following your policies. And I can make appointment changes on the fly, updating your scheduling tool in real time. Did I mention I can offer quotes for service and recommend the best service advisors for the job, and even arrange courtesy transportation? Finally, I know when a transfer is necessary, whether to a service advisor, roadside assistance, or a live agent. And I can do it without missing a beat.
You really do check all the boxes. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.